This is the story of a soldier, a father who had given everything to his country. But one night, in the glow of golden lights and polished marble floors, he was treated like a criminal. He wasn't holding a weapon. He wasn't breaking any rules. He was simply trying to watch his daughter's moment of pride, and yet security moved toward him, their hands gripped tighter than handcuffs, their voices sharp, commanding, as if his skin made him dangerous. His daughter froze on stage. The music faltered. The crowd fell into whispers, and just when it seemed humiliation would crush him, a sound rose, chairs scraping against the floor, boots, heavy, familiar, because in that room he wasn't alone. What happened next silenced the hall forever. Marcus Hale was not a stranger to battles. He had fought in deserts where the air burned like fire. He had marched through nights so dark even stars seemed afraid to shine. He had bled for a flag that promised freedom, and yet back home he often felt invisible. On weekdays, he wore a faded uniform jacket as he walked his daughter, Alina, to school. She was 12, bright-eyed, always carrying books too heavy for her arms, but never too heavy for her spirit. They would pass rows of houses, some neighbors waving politely, others pulling curtains shut as they walked by. Marcus noticed everything: the way car doors locked when he crossed a parking lot, the silence that followed when he entered a store, the cashier's forced smile that always seemed a second too late. Small cuts, each one deeper than it seemed, but Alina never noticed. She walked beside him, talking about the planets she studied, the dreams she carried of becoming an astronaut. Her voice was enough to keep his heart steady. That week she had been chosen to receive an award, a recognition for her academic excellence. The ceremony was to be held in a hall where polished floors gleamed like mirrors, where chandeliers spilled light like melted gold. Marcus pressed his uniform, not because he wanted to show off, but because his daughter wanted him to. "You'll look like a hero, Daddy," she had said, and though he knew the world didn't always see him that way, for her, he would. The night of the ceremony, the hall smelled of fresh roses and expensive perfume. Guests arrived in tailored suits, satin gowns, diamond necklaces that caught the light like fire. Marcus walked in quietly, his steps steady, his chest lifted with pride. Beside him, Alina held her little award speech folded neatly in her hands. But even as the music played and cameras flashed, Marcus felt it. The stares, cold, calculating, like he had walked into the wrong world. He didn't know it then, but before the night ended, those stares would turn into something far more dangerous. The ceremony began with music, violins echoing under the chandeliers. Children in neat uniforms filed across the stage. Parents clapped, cheered, and leaned forward with glowing faces. Marcus stayed still, hands folded, eyes on Alina. When her name was called, his heart nearly burst. She walked across the stage, small and determined, her braid swinging gently behind her. Marcus clapped harder than anyone, but as he rose to take a picture, 2 security guards moved in. Sharp suits, earpieces, expressionless faces. They stopped inches from him. "Sir, we need you to step outside." His smile faltered. "Why?" he asked, though the word never left his mouth, because he knew. He saw it in their eyes. He saw it in the way they glanced at his skin before they glanced at his badge. The whispers spread across the hall like smoke. Parents leaned toward each other. Children looked away. On stage, Alina's small hands trembled as she tried to hold her award. Marcus stayed calm. Years of training had taught him how, but the shame pressed heavy against his chest. He pulled out his military ID, the same one he had carried through war, the one stamped with sacrifice. But the guards didn't care. They leaned closer. "Sir?" Now, he looked at Alina, her eyes wide, her lips trembling. He took a step forward, but their arms blocked him. Like walls, the crowd grew restless. Some shook their heads. Others laughed quietly, as if watching a scene unfold that confirmed their prejudice. It was no accident. This was humiliation dressed as procedure, and still, Marcus didn't move. He stood his ground, silent, strong, but breaking inside. Then, another sound, a chair scraping against marble. Someone stood, an older man, hair gray, shoulders straight, despite the weight of years. His chest carried medals from a time long past. Then another, and another. Within seconds, rows of veterans, men and women, some with canes, some with missing limbs, rose from their seats, boots against marble, badges catching the light, eyes burning with fury. They didn't shout, they didn't argue, they simply moved toward Marcus, toward the guards, toward injustice itself. The hall froze. Security hesitated. Their hands loosened. Their eyes flickered with doubt, because in that moment, Marcus was no longer one man. He was an army, and the silence of humiliation turned into the silence of fear. Fear that those who had carried wars on their backs were now carrying him. The guards stepped back, but the damage was done. Marcus stood in the center of the hall, his daughter trembling on stage. The air was heavy, thick with tension that felt like smoke before fire. And then, applause. It started soft, from the veterans, then louder, until it filled the hall like thunder, not for the ceremony, not for the speeches, for Marcus, for the soldier who was almost torn from his daughter's moment. Alina's tears fell as she held her award, but this time she was not alone. Her father stood tall, surrounded by those who refused to let him fall. The chandeliers shook with the sound of unity. The guards melted back into the shadows, but the scar, it remained. That night, Marcus drove home in silence. The city lights blurred past his windshield. Alina slept in the seat beside him, clutching her award like a shield. He didn't cry, but his silence was heavier than tears, because he knew the truth, a truth many refused to face. Uniform could win wars, but it could not win dignity. Not here. Not yet. In the days that followed, the story spread. Parents whispered about it in school hallways. Neighbors avoided his eyes. The guards never apologized. But the veterans, they visited. They called. They stood by him, because brotherhood doesn't end on the battlefield. Marcus returned to his routines, walking Alina to school, carrying groceries, living quietly. But something inside him had changed. The ceremony had revealed a truth he could no longer ignore, that injustice doesn't hide in shadows. It wears suits. It smiles politely. It waits for moments to strike. And when it does, it scars more than the victim. It scars everyone watching. Years later, Alina would remember that night, not for the award, not for the stage, but for the moment her father was almost taken from her, and for the sight of strangers rising together, boots against marble, refusing to let it happen. Because sometimes silence is louder than violence, and sometimes the smallest act of standing can change the course of a life. If this could happen to a soldier, a man who bled for his country, who will be next?